So we are meeting with the gentleman that owns this. And it's a pretty cool concept. It's like circus. Have you been here? So he's got this one and then the one in Ludlow. It's so called Circus and Beer. We're meeting with Paul, the owner, to just talk about getting him on the podcast and hear what he's got going.
My goal with my content is to get entrepreneurs and restaurant owners to understand that ABR is more than an acronym. It's a lifestyle. Attract, build, retain is what we need to wake up thinking about daily. We have to believe our message is important to the masses, and creating lasting relationships with our customers is paramount.
Living the dream?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's been a
Sure
long
is.
time. You've got the one in Ludlow.
Yeah, I got the, you've been to the one in Ludlow?
I've been there. I haven't
The
been.
law just changed recently, which allows us to self-distribute, so we can make beer in Ludlow
Bring it here.
and we can bring it here.
How long ago was that?
January.
Didn't know that.
Well, it changed in, I guess, September, but we were still under contract with our distributors, so we had to like break up, whatever. It's just all games to play, right?
Before, after. See, I always wondered, when I saw that, I was wondering, because I've only known it as that since you had it. And I knew it was a theater before, but I didn't know that the marquee had been taken off.
Well, it's been really interesting because at one point it was just all plate glass, and we were doing partnership with this wrestling group, the Northern Wrestling Federation.
Oh, yeah.
And there were these 6 kids sitting in lawn chairs in November across the street, and they could see perfectly into the wrestling. And it was funny. Randy, the guy, he put up the wrestling mat. He's like, those little guys, they gotta pay. They're gonna see my wrestling. I said, Randy, hold on a second. This is the deal. Couple things. First of all, it costs us nothing to let them watch. Number one, it costs us nothing. Number two, I'm gonna go get 6 bags of popcorn. Number three, for the next 4 hours, cars are driving hundreds of cars up and down Route 8. I'm thinking, what are they doing?
What are these kids doing?
And you need every 5th and 6th grader in Ludlow to know that wrestling is gonna be in town. And I promise you, they will rake leaves, shovel driveways, borrow money from Uncle Marty. They'll do whatever they have to be able to. So that was a cool way to kind of look at like the big picture of things.
How big is that space? How many square footage?
It's like 8,000 square feet.
Now the new crowdfunding, what is that? That's for the new one?
That closes today. That closes
now, is
today.
that for that, or is that for a new location?
That's to really get this one, like get the marketing, get, butts and seats here.
Okay.
And allows us to ramp up our self-distribution model. So hire sales team, get out there, push the beer, push the experience, because that's just a great marketing tool to have.
Who's the brewmaster?
His name's JD. He's a great guy. He's our second brewmaster. Our founding brewmaster was 21 and 2 months old when he dropped out of college to be our brewer. And that was awesome. And his family owns a giant brewery in Chicago called Church Street Brewing. Okay. So he learned all the kind of ins and outs of startup and, got some welding experience and just got to be a part of making the brand and spent 4.5 years with us. He's back in Chicago running his family's brewery now, and they make more beer in a week than we make in 6 months. So they're just gigantic.
See, I think I met you originally because we handled all the marketing for Hofbrauhaus back in the day.
Yeah.
And it had to be something with the circus tie-in with the performers or something.
We hosted a lot of artists from Germany. So we've hosted, and that's what this wall's all about. Is in Ludlow, Kentucky, we've hosted artists from all these places, which is a fun game to play. Like, what are these flags? Like where is this? How does this work? Where is that? So it's really. So
the world is flat.
It is, according to one of our investors. You can argue with him all day about the flat Earth, but no, we've had Antigua, Cuba, this country, Suriname. Nobody really knows that one. That's an old Dutch colony. Really interesting. Venezuela.
I had somebody
Brazil.
that bought my book.
Huh?
That's Mara.
Yeah, Mauritius.
I had a guy that bought my book from there.
So cool.
So my original book in 2018, which I brought you a copy of the new one.
So great.
My original book, Don't 86 Your Restaurant Sales, I had a membership site tied to it, where the idea was that restaurant owners would buy the book and go, oh shit, this is really cool stuff. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to learn.
Right.
Well, 9.9 out of 10 of them just called us up and said, hey, I love the book.
Right.
I have no interest in learning.
Right.
Do it for us.
Right.
So we did.
Sure.
And then we got 400 plus locations across the country we do it for.
So great.
And so, but what came out of it was agencies. So all these, we had like 1.800 agencies from all over the globe. We had a similar map. It was funny.
Right.
And this guy literally emails me and says, hey, I've got your book. It's going to arrive in 2 months. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm not really on Amazon's route. And I'm like, well, where are you? And he's like, told me, and I'm like on a map, and I look, and that's him. And he ended up signing up and going through our training, invested a couple $1,000s to learn how to do what we do. And he was helping restaurants around that region, but it was hilarious.
That is awesome.
What's the craziest one? Japan? Wow.
Yeah,
I would think Japan would have
I worked
more.
in Japan. I worked in Japan as a clown at a hot springs bath resort. It was so great. So we lived in New York City a couple of years, and then we left New York to go to Japan. And there were 2 jugglers from the Czech Republic, 2 Chinese acrobats, and the amazing comedy of Paul Miller.
So I was in Japan for 10 days when I was in high school. My brother was in the Navy.
Right on.
And so I flew over to Tokyo, and it was Yakuza. I think Yakuza, Osaka, something.
Yeah.
And it was wild. It was
totally wild.
I was there on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
And I was 15. No, I was a junior in high school. I was 17 because I remember I could drive. And it was, I've never seen people party so much. It was insane. And my most fond memory, which is probably the worst memory from a standpoint of what I should remember, because we went to some cool museums, was my brother's like, hey, by the way, you're going to see a lot of fights as we get later in the evening, because a lot of the military get drunk and think they can beat up a short Japanese guy, and the Japanese guy kicks him in the face. Well, sure enough, we get to like the train, the high-speed train at like 4 a.m. It doesn't open till like 5. So we get down there, and there's this Marine laying there bleeding. And I'm like, oh my gosh. We call him. He's like, I'm good, bro. And I'm like, what happened? Man, this little guy, I went up to him. I was going to fight him, and he kicked me in the face. And that's all I remember.
That's about right. It's the circus has brought all these people here, and then the circus really makes money selling concessions. So that's why we started making the beer, and now clearly our restaurant needs some help putting some butts in the seats. So a lot of opportunities. For us to connect the dots.
When you started, because did you also, if I remember correct, didn't you also have a part where you took the acts all over other places?
No, here's that's a school tour. That's Howell Elementary in Ellesmere. And the woman on top, she's from Costa Rica, so she's juggling. And, that ringmaster there, she's from Ludlow. So we kind of perform all over. We're doing a prom for Glisten, I guess it's like LGBTQ teens at the Mayerson JCC this weekend. So we're going to show up and do a circus for that, which is cool. But before the pandemic, my big contract was with the German Ministry of Foreign Affairs, so it was cool. I produced 10 Days of Circus in Chicago and Atlanta and out in Portland, Oregon, and it was cool because we brought all these German artists back, and we had these. The circus is weird. I mean, it's been around a long time though. Before the radio, before the television, before the internet, the circus was the first time people would see any of that. So we're trying to capture that old school model.
Now, is the traveling, is that still under the Bircus name, or?
No, that Circus Mojo was the circus project.
Mojo,
so yeah. Circus Mojo's still around, but this is cool. We produced the circus opera.
I think you guys did the family night at Hofbräu House is what it was.
We did. We would go everywhere.
Yeah.
We would go, and that's the thing. It's like.
I was telling Logan, I'm like, I met you a long time, so I'm like, I can't remember where or when, but I think it was when we booked all the stuff with Hofbräu House, and we had Newport, Columbus, and Pittsburgh, and then some of Cleveland. But Newport, we were trying.
Those guys were printing money, weren't they?
Oh yeah, back in the day.
Yeah.
But when they hired me, the reason they hired me early on, this was, I bet 2010, was they were our first restaurant like that. We had a couple smaller ones, but we have a problem. They said, we're selling too much alcohol. We have to sell more food.
Yes.
And they're like, how do we have to get our mixes up, I guess, for the liquor laws in Kentucky. And then at that point, it became, okay, we got that figured out. How do we get lunch? And at that point, it was, okay, how do we get Monday nights and Tuesday nights? And so that's literally our entire backbone of our company now, ironically, is based off of all the stuff I learned messing with there.
So good.
And when I wrote my first book, it was based on what I figured out on how to automate customer acquisition in the restaurant online. And that was just the whole thing. And it was just funny because it all started with solving these little problems.
Yeah, that's right.
I was talking to a client the other night, we're helping them launch a thing called Menu Mondays.
Okay.
When I first told him, I was like, what the hell's Menu Mondays? I'm like, it's whatever you want it to be. I'm like, Mondays are dead, right? Yeah. I'm sure your database is like 8,000 people. There's 500 people in there that love whatever you do, right? Yeah. We're going to find those 500, and we're going to invite them down because all you want to do is sell beer and get some food. We're going to invite them down to sample five menu items they've probably not eaten much of. We're going to get free samples for an hour, and then we're going to have some specials in the drink and eat. Like, oh, well, next thing you know, they do $4,000 on a Monday night that there was never anybody there.
Yeah.
And so that we used to experiment that with Hofbrauhaus because they had such a big footprint.
Right, huge.
I mean, we did the Oktoberfest. I did the Oktoberfest Olympics one year. We had keg tossing.
So cool.
I figured out we can't do like the hot dog eating contest didn't go well.
No, but really it's a thing too where having some expertise. I mean, like I don't brew the beer, you know, but you hire great people and you let them make great products and then boom, it takes off.
And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people want to have their hands in everything.
Oh,
like,
hell no. I'm an idiot savant. I can balance anything on my chin for the most part. You know, watch the lamps here. Oh, okay. So I can pretty much balance anything on my chin. I get good deals on real estate, and I've never missed payroll.
Good deals on real estate.
Yeah, that's the angle.
Because I like commercial real estate.
Yeah, I know that's the even this like we're leasing this, but it's such a. I guess you were here when it's Pepe Cucina. I mean, my guy Ryan. Look at this bar, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, so we took out. They had a second cooler. We took that out. So like this, it's got this super old elevator from like.
Does that work?
Yeah. How cool is this thing?
How does that work when these buildings are all connected with regards to, do you guys lease this or own this?
Yeah, no, we're leasing.
Okay. Because I know my attorney is here.
Yeah.
And at one point they owned a lot of these.
Yeah.
And they were kind of connected and it was a nightmare.
Yeah. This is from like.
This has got to be from 50 years ago.
1890.
This is?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was a paper mill.
Also,
you get like behind the so when we deliver the kegs, you know. But this is so neat. I mean, here's our we just have such a great team. James and Ryan, we built all this. So this is just all gauges. We make the beer in Ludlow. Got this guy Rick who comes in. He's an old Marine, total badass, super scrap man. So he delivers all of our beer. And then we took this. You know what a CoolBot does? It takes a room air conditioner and defeats the thermostat and turns it into a refrigerator. Check this out.
What?
Like this is what I could offer you readers.
This is
the
Kentucky
cheapest restaurant hacks.
This is Kentucky engineering.
A clown. It's the Ringling Brothers, N. Barnum, and Bailey Circus. All right, so they just kept acquiring like bankrupt assets. So look at this thing. This thing's called a CoolBot. And what it does, it takes the room air conditioner, defeats the thermostat, it's connected with Wi-Fi. If it drops off, an alarm goes off. But any restaurant people out there, you can get walk-in boxes for nothing.
Yep.
The piece of the puzzle is the condenser, the chiller.
That's the air conditioner I had in my window at my house in Erlanger in the 80s.
Yeah. It is.
And it will cool that.
It defeats the thermostat and makes it a refrigerator. How badass is that?
That's pretty unbelievable.
So that could save a restaurant guy or gal thousands and thousands of dollars. And then this is a glycol line. So what this does, it keeps the temperature control. So all of those beer lines
stay cold
all the way down here.
Which is a big problem.
Oh, it's a huge problem.
Yeah, I've seen, we had one restaurant we were talking to, their biggest problem was their cooler was so far from the taps and that the beer, the temperature was lowering.
No, so you gotta kind of, there's 7 habits of highly effective people. I only worry about 2. Sharpen the blade and begin with the end in mind. These are the 2 I worry about. But this was really like, knowing that was there. We lobbied in Frankfurt for years trying to get the situation so we could self-distribute. So now we're in the space where, just trying to get it done.
And there's a lot of things the pandemic brought that were, like things like there's a lot of these laws that happened because of the pandemic. I mean, they wanted to make it easier.
Well, things were, it's
like carrying beer around neighborhoods. That was
right.
It was like 4th Street in Louisville, I think was the only place.
Yeah.
So this goes back upstairs.
Yeah,
okay.
it's right upstairs here. So we got Get a Pies already. Come on. Get your Get a Pie.
So here's why you should tell your story. This is LinkedIn. That's Paul's LinkedIn. We just left there. I've been connected with him for a while on LinkedIn. I've known him for probably going on 10 years because we would hire Circus Mojo's actors to come out and do events at Hofbrauhaus. And I think we also did some stuff at Quaker Steak and Lube. And what was great about today's meeting was I didn't know 99% of what he told us. And so when I was thinking about having him on a podcast, I'm like, hey, I want to come find out what's going on first because I like to at least have some prep. But that was cool to hear because going down there and it's hard to start a business, but then you look at what he's done: entertainment, beer, food, the investment opportunity, which is pretty cool. That was a great meeting today. So that's why I like getting out face to face with people, because a lot of times we're stuck as a national company having conversations on Zoom. And there's a lot of that you can't get, especially that great pizza, right, Max? That's all we got for this week's Behind the Scenes. Stay tuned. Maybe you'll have watched the podcast before the time this comes out, or maybe you'll watch the podcast after it comes out. But anyway, you probably heard some cool stories today. Adios.